This episode begins with Rex. He accompanied Ray to a supermarket to buy some foodstuffs, but he suddenly began to complain because he didn't expect the activity to be so boring. He tells her they should go get a drink, but Ray replies that they need groceries because no one is going to cook for them anymore. Ray asks how he normally survives with his first superhero team. Rex tells her that Eve eats at home, Kate handles herself, while he normally uses robot credit card to buy pizza. Ray plans to make them dinner for tonight. She doesn't know how to cook, but plans to use YouTube videos for that. Just during their conversation, they hear a loud blast from outside the mall. It is an alien creature causing chaos everywhere, so Rex and Ray goes to confront the monster. On the other hand, you remember that camera that was spying on Mark at his house before it exploded when Mark touched it? He takes it to Robot so he can investigate about it. His fear is the person spying on him doesn't just know his identity and where he lives, but they also know about his family too. Robot tells Mark that the spy camera is too damaged to ascertain who built it or who was controlling it. The camera is of Earth origin and it's extremely sophisticated, that's all he knows. He also adds that whoever made the spy camera has significant resources at their disposal. That word, significance resources, made Mark to suspect that it might be no other person but Cecil who used the camera to spy at his house. Immediately, Mark breaches Cecil's basement and starts killing all the reanimants that stood in his way. Cecil uses a shrieking sound to restrain Mark and then captures him. He asks Mark the reason for attacking his basement. Mark throws the camera and asks Cecil why he is spying on them again. Cecil tells Mark that that camera is not theirs, because if they even wanted to spy on him, he will never know it. Mark suddenly gets a notification on his phone and decided to leave, but tells Cecil that this isn't over. Cecil tells Donald that this is such a terrifying way to start his morning, like look at the mess Mark just made. Donald asks Cecil what they will do if Mark decides not to believe them, but Cecil tells him that they should just hope that doesn't happen. Although it is revealed that Cecil is actually spying on Mark, but not with his camera, and he will really like to know who used the camera to spy on Mark. Mark checks his time and realizes he's late for his date with Eve. He meets her at a coffee shop and pecks her to apologize for his lateness. Since they are both superheroes, this relationship doesn't seem weird to them as they understand each other. Just as they are about to kiss, a glowing portal suddenly opens beside them, and those thief twin brothers suddenly comes out from it. They beg Mark to come with them right now. It's about life and death, so they have no time to explain. Eve blocks them with her powers and asks Mark if he knows them. Mark replies that they were the ones who stole the Declaration of Independence when he was busy saving Rex. We get to know the names of the twins. The one on purple is called Dropkick, and his brother on orange is called Fightmaster, and they tell Mark they need his help. Mark refuses to hear nothing more on what they are saying because they should be in prison, but they clear out that they stole the Declaration of Independence for a good reason. Millions of lives are at stake and they still are. The twins reveals that they are from the future, so they need someone to overthrow their king. Looking at how Mark easily beat them, they believe he is the only one strong enough to do that. Mark tells them that he is not going to the future with them. They are even lucky he's on a date. If not, he should have taken them both to prison. Eve asks him if he's really sure about his decision, and Mark was like, yeah, he's not ruining their date because of their problem. Before he could finish talking, the twins grab Mark and pushes him inside the portal that leads to the future. Mark grabs their necks for bringing him here, but they beg him that if he helps them, they will give him back the Declaration of Independence. They take Mark to their city where everywhere turns out to be a mess. They tell Mark a story. Centuries ago, the planet was at the brink of collapse, then one man was made the ruler of Earth, and he ruled well for a while. But something changed about the ruler and he slowly went mad. He began bringing new laws, mandatory work camps, prison for dissenters, but things later got much worse. The ruler began senseless wars for no reason, turned his royal guards into robots, entire nations was punished and forced to survive without power and technology. When he personally took 10 cities off the map for resisting, that was when a rebellion group was created. They tried to stop him, but he was way too strong. They even built time machines so they can look for solutions in the past. This was even why they took the Declaration of Independence, because there was a legend that the ink from the Declaration of Independence can make a poison to kill the ruler, but that didn't work either. Then they saw Mark, and realized he could be the one to save them because of how strong he is. Since their king is super strong and has ruled for hundreds of years, and almost impossible to kill, Mark asks the twins if he's a Viltrumite, but the twins don't even know what that means. He asks how he can help, so they twins shoot gun in the air so they can get the attention of their ruler royals guards. 3 royal guards who are robots suddenly shows up and tries to arrest them for violating the king's curfew. Fightmaster tells Mark there are millions of the guards, and they normally enforce the king's madness on the people. Before they could finish explaining, Mark goes to fight the robots and kills them very easily. They tell Mark that they never needed him to fight them, their plan was to get themselves arrested, because it's the easiest way to see the king. 2 extra robots shows up, and they decided to surrender to get arrested. One robot scans Mark and surprisingly appears to know him. They tell Mark that they have been waiting for him. Just as the 3 of them are handcuffed and taken to the palace, the robots decided to take the twins to a separate building where they will be executed, while Mark will be taken inside the palace to see the king who has been expecting him. Mark tries to free himself to save the twins, but they beg him not to, that they can take care of themselves. His main priority right now should be stopping the king. Mark is taken to the palace where he finally sees the king, but he is surprised as the king is immortal. That means in the future, Immortal is the king of Earth. We find out that in the future Mark left Earth with his family, so he left Immortal no choice to do what he did, as he believes it was the only way to bring Mark back. In the future, we also find out that Mark became the Emperor of Earth, but later left Earth with his family and left Immortal in charge. Immortal tells Mark that being the Emperor was just too much for him to handle. Mark is confused. The Immortal he knows doesn't kill people, but Immortal tells him that the man he once knew is dead. Mark asks him about Kate. It might be because of her he's acting this way, but funny enough, Immortal doesn't even remember her. He's had hundreds of wives, he has outlived everyone he has ever loved. Like, do you really know what that does to a man? Centuries after centuries. Immortal tells Mark he needs to repay the debts he owes him whether he wants to or not. Immortal tells Mark to put him out of his misery, but Mark refuses and tells him to just quit, but Immortal replies that kings don't quit but must fall forever. He has to kill him so the power will return to the people. It's the only way for humanity to rise again. Immortal suddenly attacks Mark just to try and force Mark to kill him. But Mark keeps holding back and even suggests he can commit suicide or something, but Immortal was like, suicide is a coward way to escape. On the other hand, those twins are able to escape their capture and they enter the palace to see Immortal attacking Mark. Immortal sees them and tries to kill them just to make Mark angry into killing him. Mark couldn't take any of these anymore, and decided to stop holding back. He uses his hand to rip Immortal head out of his body. The twins thanks him for saving their city, but Mark tells them not to thank him because he isn't happy about killing Immortal. He believes even though Immortal wanted it, that still shouldn't be a reason to kill someone. They tell Mark he killed a lot of people, but Mark was like, he saved a lot of people too. Mark tells them to keep his body parts separated or he will just come back to life. The twins tries to make him not to feel bad, but Mark replies that they should just take him back home. They return Mark back to the past, where he returned back on his date with Eve really sad. He asks Eve if he's a good person. He saw the Immortal in the future and it was awful. He lived too long, killed people, enslaved the entire planet, so he killed him. Mark feels guilty. He says it's his fault he left him in charge of the world in the future. Eve consoled Mark with the same thing he once told her, that the future of him isn't him. Eve assures they will get through everything together, and joke that, if he ever turns into a gigantic world conqueror, she will kick his ass until he is back in line. Mark and Eve decided to continue their date. They fly around the world together, and it was so romantic. After their date, Mark reveals to Eve that he loves her and she reveals she feels the same, and they both kissed. The scene suddenly takes us to space and a narrator tells us about Alan the alien, who sits in a Viltrumite prison cell. The handcuffs cannot hold him, and he can escape from the prison whenever he wants, because Alan the alien has grown very strong indeed, but he still decided to wait because he has a plan, which is to free Omni-Man. The episode decided to give us a brief recap for those of us with short attention spans. Alan fought with a very fearsome Viltrumite called Anissa. Although stronger than her, he allowed himself to be taken prisoner in hopes of discovering if Omni-Man, or Mark's dad, is still alive. Alan's plans worked as Omni-Man was still alive, but he was sentenced to death. Using his implanted communication device, Alan told Omni-Man on how he visited Mark to enlist himself in a war between the coalition of planets. Alan begged Omni-Man to join their cause, but he refused, convinced that his execution was justified for his betrayal for both Viltrum and Earth. Alan didn't give up and tried so many times to convince Omni-Man, but his answers were still the same. Just as Alan was about to give up, Omni-Man said something that gave him hope, which was about him missing his wife. Alan's discussion with Omni-Man gets interrupted by the captors, who attempted to execute him, but no weapon was able to penetrate his body. Alan tries convincing Omni-Man again, but he refused, saying he deserves death and advises Alan to leave because Viltrumites are coming soon, and will actually kill him, but Alan refused to go and is ready to stay and die as long as Omni-Man is not coming with him. After a few days, 2 Viltrumites shows up to execute Omni-Man through brutal torture, but Alan couldn't watch this happen. The captors tries to stop Alan, so Alan figured out an idea, which is freeing the aliens that were captured to join him fight the captors. But all the aliens he released were killed. Alan suddenly finds a special prison, and as he opens it, the prisoner there turned out to be the Battle Beast. Battle Beast asks Alan if the opponents he speaks off is worthy of his strength, and Alan replies yes. He tells them the opponents are Viltrumites, and Battle Beast smiles and asks how many, and he says 2. On the other hand, just as the Viltrumites tries to kill Omni Man with repeated punches, Alan and Battle Beast shows up and interrupted the execution. Battle Beast sees the Viltrumite and is so happy, because his long thirst for battle can now be satisfied. Long has he waited for such a worthy challenge, and he tells himself that if this conflict brings the end of his life, he will savor it all the more. Single-handedly, he attacks the Viltrumite. While he takes his time to beat one, the other one attacks Alan when he tries to free Omni Man. Alan is strong but doesn't have the skills, so he got defeated. Just as Alan gets beaten to death by the Viltrumite, Omni Man couldn't stand and watch. He sets himself free and goes to fight the Viltrumite, but gets defeated. Alan and a Milne man decided to join forces to fight one, while Battle Beast handles the other. They both had a hard time, but they send 2 punch at once towards the Viltrumite face, and killed him instantly. Alan tells Omni Man that he just didn't want to watch him die because the moment they spend in prison, he began to see us as a friend. Omni Man is touched because no Viltrumite would do such a thing. Alan tells him that they should hurry out of here before reinforcement of the Viltrumite arrives, but Omni Man tells him no reinforcement is coming and reveals their empire secret, which is, there are only less than 50 Viltrumite alive, and reveals it to be the reason they have hope on defeating them, and that was how the episode ended. Thank you for watching, guys. If you don't want to miss out on the next episode, subscribe. Bye.